125 years for Miranda Public School. I can't imagine what it looked like back then when the kids would travel by boat to Yowie Bay and then by horse and buggy to come up to this school. And now we're surrounded by Westfield and buildings. We're still a vibrant, exciting school, even more so. So happy 125 years, and I look forward to the next 125.
When I first came to the school, there was a road, the Silver Avenue went right up to the railway, and there were some houses along the left side of Silver Avenue where the preschool is and where Westfield's car park is now. So Westfield bought all those houses and they gave us the road as our playground and knocked down the houses, built the car park, and the preschool as well.
I used to look out into the playground of Miranda Public School, and I used to always think to myself, wow, you could do some lovely things with this school.
So the infant school was a separate entity of its own, and the primary school was as well. So you had your own admin, you had your own canteen over in the infants, and the same over here.
My first memories is probably, quite a strange one, is the principal at the time when I came to Miranda was Wayne Roberts, and unbeknown to myself, there were two positions, assistant principal's positions advertised, one for literacy and one for numeracy, and I was successful in the literacy position, and the other applicant that was successful in the numeracy position also had the name Narelle.
I did my very first prac at Miranda School in about 1975.
Mrs. Beasley was here and she was my first teacher that I got put into her classroom, and then I think the next year I went on to be in the lovely Mr. Beasley's room. So it was interesting when I started teaching back here to see Marg Beasley still here as a teacher, and that was nice to see a familiar face.
My first memory from kindergarten was being just put in the corner. I don't know why, but I was sort of segregated away from the other children, and I was just playing with these coloured blocks. I don't know what they're called. They're rods. There's like a 10 and a 9 and 8. I know the little ones. I forget what they're called. I know the different colours, but I was playing with them for some reason while all the other kids were sort of doing other things.
We were doing fractions in class, and on the chalkboard, Mrs. Button, she had gotten me to stand up and tell the class what the fraction was, and I think it was a third or something, but I thought it was a half. That was the only fraction I knew. So I got up there, told everyone it was a half, and Mrs. Button had just been telling us a story about how when she was younger, the teachers used to slap her on the hand if she got an answer wrong. So as soon as she got up and told me that wasn't right, I immediately freaked out. I thought, oh my God, she's gonna hit me, and I was freaking out. And she told me to turn around and look at the board, look at the fraction. And I wouldn't, because I thought she was gonna hit me. And I ran out of the room crying.
Memories of primary school was our old library and our librarian. Her name was Mrs. Nay. And I'll always remember some of the things she used to tell us to help us speak clearly. She always used to say that you should always have 2 fingers gap between your teeth when you were speaking. She used to say things like, "How now, brown cow," in an effort to teach us to speak clearly.
I'm through the worst student, because all I did, I think, for the first 2 weeks of my Miranda Public experience is cry for my mum. Literally cried, and Mrs. Beasley was our saviour. Even my mum still talks about Mrs. Beasley. because she had been the one with the idea of getting me this little teddy bear that had a little photograph thing in it that she put mum in, and then I stopped crying over mum.
And the first day of school, the parents didn't walk through the gates. You just walked through the gate by yourself, and the teacher just said, "Follow me," and that was it.
Since I first started as a teacher, that school should be fun and that kids should actually enjoy their day. And I know when I started in 1982, that wasn't a mantra in everyone's classroom. It was about don't smile till the end of term 1 and be stern and be firm and keep control of your kids by being, a serious person. And I thought, that's not my nature, and that's not how I want my kids to be. I want them to be happy and enjoy their day, and that not every morning they're going to wake up happy, but I want them to go home happy at the end of the day, and I want them to enjoy each other's company. And we can learn, but it should be fun.
Our chalkboard skills are probably way, way, way in advance of any teacher in this day and age.
They did used to always stand up in front of the board with the big ruler and bash the chalkboards. And every day children had to, they took turns, and they would have to go outside and they would have to bash all the cleaners from the boards.
Then when I came to Miranda, we started with a couple of apples, and I think the year 6 kids had the apple machines, and they had big floppy disks you had to put in them.
Just probably the biggest change has been technology. And just the way that children use technology. Like we went from, having a whiteboard to having an interactive whiteboard to having wireless devices. And I think just that role as a teacher, to go from being a teacher where you felt like you were responsible for being able to give children all the information that you could, to just being a facilitator and actually helping them access the correct information skills.
The playground over on the other side used to be all bitumen when I first came here. And every day, as Mr. Beasley said, when people would get stung by bugs, every day there'd be a queue of kids to get band-aids from playing soccer on the bitumen.
We used to sit over there on those aluminium benches and have lunch. We used to play out there. We used to play handball. There's grass there now. There didn't used to be grass. It used to be all sort of asphalt. You'd just cut your knees up when you fell down. It was a lot of fun.
Well, people say the whole of the Shire was isolated and insulated, but it's not anymore. There are lots and lots of schools, especially along the train lines, that people from all over the world.
It's not so teacher-child, it's more supporting each other, and the parents are a lot more involved. My mum always says, we used to come to school for maybe an Easter hat parade and maybe the end of year, and that would be it, end of year concert. Now, every couple of months there's some invitation to come to the school and to be part of it as a community, and there's also that you can see exactly the rapport that the children are building with their teachers, and how well supported and how loved they are by the teachers as well.
I'm walking past Karen's room and everyone's killing themselves laughing, but they're doing stuff. And I remember walking down and walking back and walking up a couple of times, and I couldn't help myself, I had to come in. And they were making a movie. And I was hooked at the get-go. I saw the buy-in from the kids. They were just totally enthralled with the whole process. They didn't see it was work. They thought it was fun, but they were writing and they're creating and they're communicating and they're thinking critically about the work that they're doing. And I thought, wow, this is something I want, and this is something this school can do better than any other school because of the nature of our kids and our teachers.
Band was a thing as well back then. Doing band and going across to the Port Hacking High, doing a performance each year. I remember doing that. That was really great.
Putting the leader in me into this school, to me, was an incredibly important thing. It was kind of like the icing on the cake for this school.
The Leader in Me program is different. Like, that was a new thing when I had started as a teacher that I got introduced to, and has now become a big part of my life. That was introduced to me through this school.
Lots of fun, interesting days. I think you know, many of our Talk Like a Pirate days, our discos, our Mr. Carter losing a bet and turning up in a full ball gown at assembly.
And the kids built a ghost room out of the sports room. So they hung,
Oh, it would have been one of the Year 6 fundraisers.
it was a fundraiser, and they hung spider webs and they had all these different creatures and skeletons and things in the room, and that's where we sort of started a bit of a story about somebody living down underneath in the sports room area. But there wasn't anybody. There wasn't anybody.
I used to, when I go to the bathroom, I used to always run past the canteen.
I was always
I was
really-
always scared.
Yeah,
Also, going
I was
down
really
that.
scared when
knows?
like they
I'll go
sent me
by
to the
himself.
sports storeroom to get
Yeah.
something,
Yeah,
and I was like,
I
no
used to
thanks.
I can remember when I was in Year 6 and we had a vote in our class as to who would be the bell ringer. And somehow I won it, which was pretty cool considering I was always late. Anyway, so for that whole year, students were never on time. The bell always went late. I'd get halfway to the bell. I'd have to walk down to the office to actually flick the switch, and I'd get halfway there and the principal's already done it for me, couldn't wait. And then I'd be outside playing and they'd always say, hey Tommy, you gotta go and ring the bell. And I'd go, oh, and I'd run. It's already, one of the teachers has already made it anyway. I didn't get the sack. And funnily enough, at the end of the year, when it came to the award night, I won the Reliability Award. I don't know how, but it was a great school.
Nick Farr-Jones, who was captain of the Wallabies, was an ex-student. Shane Gould is an ex-student of the school. I think she was only here for 12 months, but you know, she did attend the school.
The swimming did go downhill after that.
We used to set up the assembly every Friday, and we felt so cool because we got to go out of class and we got to set up the assembly, and then we got to speak in assembly and lead the school in so many activities, and it was really nice.
After lunch to library, having been running around all of lunchtime, we were always sweating, but you were never allowed to say the word sweat. She always used to correct us and say, horses sweat, humans perspire.
To the camp over at Bundoona and stuff, they had a ball over there.
Yeah.
And they'd get Mr. Carter in the canoes and they'd tip over his canoe in the water and things like this.
These days, kids are pretty lucky. They've got these backpacks. They look pretty cool. I used to have this little orange Stanley Stanford school bag. And I don't know why, because no other kid used to have one. But for some reason, my mum bought me that one. And I used to have that school, and my friends thought it was really funny to get my bag and just throw it from one side of the corridor down to the other. So when I used to have to go and get it, it was like already 50 metres away, because it would just slide, it would go forever.
We used to do a program where one or two children from each class who were outstanding in whether it be their manners or some of their schoolwork would get selected by the teachers, and Mr. Carter and myself would take them over to Gibbon and we'd have a day and go fishing, and they'd have like picnics and stuff.
But it was a good school, and there was a lot of caring teachers, so I felt like, you know, it was a good place to send my children. And I like the support unit being here as well, because it gives you a good all-round, this is our society and this is what we have to live with these days. So this is how we live, you know, it's not segregated, it's not separate, we're all one people.
The kids were especially nice to new people. They looked after the special ed fantastically too. Very, you know, included in everything, so I think our kids were very good here.
Happy 125th birthday, Miranda Public School!
Happy 125th birthday, Miranda Public School, and I hope you have a lot more.
Happy
125th birthday, Miranda!
A happy 125th birthday, Miranda Public School.
Happy 125th birthday, Miranda Public School.
Happy 125th birthday, Miranda Primary, and here's to another 125 more.
Happy 125th birthday, Miranda Public School!
Miranda, Miranda, wherever we abide.
Miranda will still be our joy and our pride. We always will hear you and
And I look forward to the next 125 when spaceships are landing on the roof and we just teleportal everywhere.